Ladies. Azaria, Autumn, and Hazel. Let's set a good example for each other. Sit down the way you're supposed to. Sit up, dear. Welcome to VBS! Woo! Are you excited to be here for VBS? We have a big day ahead of us. We only got 2 more days of VBS left. Oh, that's so sad. But we're going to have so much fun today, and we're really, really looking forward to it. So first thing, couple of rules we need to talk about is rule number 1, be safe. Let's repeat that. Be safe. Whoever listens to me will live in safety and be at ease without fear of harm. That's Proverbs 1:33. When we listen and do what we're supposed to do, we will be safe. Rule number 2, be respectful. Say, be respectful. Do to others like you would like them to do to you. Even if someone doesn't treat you well, you still treat them well. And last one, be responsible. Say, be responsible. Work willingly at whatever you do as though you were working for the Lord rather than people. We need to take responsibility for our actions, act the way that we're supposed to, and if we make a mistake, say sorry and we move on. Okay. Raise your hand if you've got a name tag on. Everybody have their name tag? If you do not have a name tag, let us know and we will make sure you get one. We want to make sure we know. Awesome. We want to make sure that everybody's got their name tag and that everyone knows who you are so we can call on you and talk to you and that we make sure you stay in the right place. Tonight, there will be a drawing for awards, Sunshine Awards. We have Sunshine Awards. I'll get you a copy of this. We got Sunshine Awards. These are for people who shine lights just like Jesus, who act like Jesus. They listen, they participate in class, they answer questions, and they do a good job acting like Jesus. So, you'll get an award, and then if you get your name written on the Sunshine Award, it will go in the drawing. Tonight, we're doing 4 names. 4 names. So we got lots of chances for you to get a prize. Okay, let's go ahead and stand up and do some songs. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. The mountains are His, the valleys are His, the skies are His handiwork too. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all tangled up in Jesus. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all tangled up in God. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all tangled up in Jesus. I'm all wrapped up, tied up, tangled up in God. Oh yeah. Come on, David. Come on, David. You can do it. Come on. We can do it. Come on, come on. Put down your staff for a moment. Come on, come on. Okay. Can you all show David how to do it? Can we show David? I'm all wrapped up, tied up, tangled up in Jesus. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all tangled up in Jesus. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all tangled up in God. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all tangled up in Jesus. I'm all wrapped up, tied up, tangled up in God. Oh yeah. Awesome. Let's do one more song standing up. Ooh, we haven't done this song yet. I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly o'er the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly o'er the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. Awesome. Y'all can have a seat. We'll do one more song, and then we're going to watch our video for our lesson today. Oh, this will be a good song to kind of get us calmed down. God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. Tonight we're going to learn about David's best friend. Did anybody know what David's best friend's name was? What was his name? Jonathan. Yes, his name was Jonathan. Jonathan and David were best friends. And guess what? Jonathan was King Saul's son. And so David came and ended up living at their house. And they became best friends for life. And we're going to learn about their friendship that they had tonight. So let's watch our video.
After David had killed Goliath, King Saul called for David. Saul explained that he would not allow David to return home to his father. From then on, David was successful in every mission Saul gave him. His success led Saul to make him the leader of all his soldiers. This decision pleased all of Saul's people, as David was well liked by everyone. He was especially favored by Jonathan, Saul's son. Jonathan grew to love David as he loved himself. One day, Jonathan made a covenant with David and gave him his robe, armor, sword, bow, and his belt as a sign of their friendship. When Saul and his army journeyed home after defeating the Philistines, the women in the towns came out to greet them and celebrate their victory. They sang and danced to songs of joy played on their instruments. They sang, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." This well-meaning song did not please King Saul at all, as it gave David credit for more of the victory. In his anger, he became jealous and suspicious of David, wondering if he would try to take his kingdom from him. From that moment on, Saul kept a close eye on David. The next day, as usual, David was playing his lyre for Saul when an evil spirit from God came on Saul. Thinking to himself, "I'll pin David to the wall," Saul grabbed a spear and threw it at David. Saul threw the spear at David twice, but David dodged it both times. Because Saul could see that the Lord was with David and that the Lord was no longer with him, Saul was afraid of David. In an attempt to send David away from him, Saul gave him command over 1,000 men. David led the troops in their campaigns, and he was successful in everything he did because the Lord was with him. All of Israel and Judah loved David because he led them in their campaigns. Seeing how successful and loved David was made Saul's fear grow even more. After a failed attempt to have David killed in battle against the Philistines, Saul made a new plan to kill him. Saul spoke to his son Jonathan and all his servants and told them to kill David. Jonathan, who was David's friend, told David about his father's plan. "My father is looking for a chance to kill you. Be on your guard tomorrow morning and go into hiding," Jonathan warned. Jonathan promised to go to his father and speak on David's behalf. The next day, Jonathan reminded Saul of the good that David had done for him, and that he had done nothing to him. "Do not sin against your servant David, as he has not sinned against you," he pleaded. Saul listened to his son and made a promise, saying, "As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be put to death." Jonathan told David the whole conversation, and he brought him to Saul. Life returned to normal, and David stayed with Saul as he had before. Once more war broke out with the Philistines, and David went out to fight them. He struck them with such force that they fled before him. One day, after he had returned from battle, David was playing his lyre for Saul when an evil spirit from the Lord came upon the king. Just as before, Saul grabbed a spear and threw it at David. The spear missed David and became stuck in the wall. David fled to his home. Saul sent messengers to David's house to make sure that he did not escape in the night. Saul wanted them to bring David to him in the morning so that he could kill him. Michal, one of Saul's daughters who had been given to David to be his wife, told David that he needed to leave. She warned her beloved husband, "If you do not escape tonight, tomorrow you will be killed." Michal helped David get out of their house by climbing out a window and down the wall so that he could escape unseen by Saul's men.
Our big idea tonight is God is with us in the good times and in the bad times. So our memory verse tonight is 1 Samuel 18:14. In everything he, David, did, he had great success because the Lord was with him. It's time for us to go to our classes. It's time for us to go play some games. It's time for us to go make some crafts and have lots of fun. I'm going to go ahead and start by sending our toddler class. You ready to go? I'm glad. It's going to be lots of fun. Yeah, follow your teacher. Going to send our first and second grade. You can take it with you. The bow. Yeah. I don't think so. I think these are the old ones. I'm double checking. Yeah. I'm sorry? You can take those with you, yeah. There's just a visual. Yeah. How did they make the sheet? I think they pulled some cotton balls apart and put them all, stuck them on there. We'll send pre-K kindergarten. Yeah. Have fun. 3rd through 5th grade. If you want to go that way, that'd probably be easier. Less traffic. Thank you, Miss Lisa. Miss Lisa, thank you for filling in. And 6th through 12th grade. Les will be with your all's teacher today. Hey, Les, will you come here for a second? Les Tubb, will you come here for a second, please? These are take-home papers.
Okay.
Yeah, there you
Good
go.
enough.
Yeah. If you'll get out your songbook, We're going to sing I'll Be a Friend. I'll Be a Friend. I haven't found the number, though. $6.99. $6.99. There's a better song. I don't want to do that one. I changed my mind. Yeah, I was just kidding. Oh, man. I can't. Talks about Jesus as, his friend. Jesus is a friend, No, that's that's a different. What's that song? Jesus is my friend, something along. It's not Jesus is my friend. That's a different song. I'm not sure. I had a song in my head, and then that's the one. I want what a friend we had in Jesus. There we go. I knew I'd get there eventually. That's number 800. 800. 800. Yes. 800. I'm sure this time. Yeah. Yeah. What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Are we weak and heavy laden, cumbered with a load of care? Precious Savior, still our refuge, take it to the Lord in prayer. Do thy friends despise, forsake thee? Take it to the Lord in prayer. In his arms he'll take and shield thee. Thou wilt find a solace there. If you're ready.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight? It's a pleasure to see you. Glad you've come our way this evening, and glad we have those tuning in on our live stream. So thankful for your presence. Isn't that what they always say? All right. So if you have your Bibles, let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 18. We got about 37 minutes tonight to discuss, and I do not mind at all. Like last night, I thought we had a pretty lively discussion, and that was great. And I think the more discussion, the merrier, the more the merrier. This is a larger atmosphere, larger room than what we are accustomed to in the annex area. So, if you do have anything to say, turn that volume a little higher than normal so I can hear it without having to beg you to repeat it. That's my fault, not yours. All right? So let me find a Bible. I thought I left mine up front, but it just really looks like my Bible's gone. So we're going with this. This will be the one we use tonight. All right, so we're talking tonight about we're in an ongoing discussion of David, anointed to be king, but not king yet. So for us to get David from the shepherd boy that sang praises to God, that shared his heart with God in the field while watching sheep, for us to get from that point to the throne takes some years. And the majority of those years, he is running for his life from the king of Israel. And you would think, what? Remember one thing I said last night about the king, the first king, and consequently what should have been every king that would follow until, sadly, they go away into until the Assyrian destruction and then the Babylonian captivity. What should have been every king pointing the way to God. Instead, we have the ups and downs of good king, bad king, bad king, bad king, bad king, good king, bad king, bad king, fair king, bad king, bad. We have that kind of look and structure in the history of the United Kingdom, divided kingdom. So when we talk about the United Kingdom, we're talking about just 3 kings, only 3. And, it would be like saying the United States of America upon its foundation of, 1776 and having signed the Declaration of Independence and then putting in the first president of the United States, and after the third one, America ceased to exist. It'd be something like that. So as we look at Israel, Israel has always had a very volatile history in the Bible, biblically speaking, okay? So what we're dealing with right now is a period of the United Kingdom. However, when we talk about the United Kingdom under a king, we already know very early on God said Saul may maintain a position of being on the throne, but he is not my king anymore. So Saul held a position of king, even though he did not hold the place in the eyes and heart of God. What that meant was Saul could essentially do anything he wants to do from a physical perspective, and that's exactly what he does. Now, I think early on, Saul shows us his heart, shows us his demeanor and his spirit, and we see that evidently in his willingness to go after David and try to kill him on, we would say, multiple occasions. However, Saul does go from being a man of a pointed kind of a pointed sort of selfishness into what I would call an outright mental illness. And his mental decline is something you can kind of watch happening over a process of time. Trish was bringing it up just tonight. I didn't know that Saul was really trying to kill him, That's right. He does lose his mind over that jealousy and the fear of losing his throne, even though the throne was taken away from him, not by people, but by God. That's right. That's right. That's right. It's almost like you watch the sun very quickly set on Saul, and it passes, boom, right to David, and the sun stays on David the rest of that time. That's what happens with Saul. He has the throne, but he does not have God. And that's what begins that decline. And I think when you talk about mental illness, there have been a lot of present time psychologists who would pinpoint the kind of mental illness that Saul had. You can Google all that on your own. But I'm saying you can notice definitely that he takes a very dark turn, and it does not get better. It gets worse and worse and worse. And it's one of the saddest things in the Old Testament. Because you were handpicked, right? And you had every possibility of being God's man, and you turn your back on it just because you'd rather listen to the people or do it your own way. And that began the decline of Saul very, very early, okay? So we're finally getting then to a place where, and this is interesting, David for several years, even though he's been anointed, does not ever take the throne. Instead, he doesn't just not have the throne, which God's promised him, but he also has to run the risk of losing his life on a daily basis. How would you like to know that I'm God's man? God has in mind for me to be on the throne, but I'm not even sure if I'm going to wake up tomorrow, because I know Saul is after me. And by the way, when we say Saul is after him, he doesn't just mean if you come back into the city limits, I'm going to send my men for you. How about aggressively chasing him and doing what he can to locate David, and it'd be the idea of like cutting off supplies, cutting off his roots, keeping roots, R-O-U-T-E-S, cutting off his potential to get free or go somewhere else, and then turn people against him so that if he should come through there, he's going to be betrayed by them anyway. So Saul is not just trying to see to it David dies. He's pursuing the concept of being the one to destroy the life of David. If he can't kill him, he's going to make his life a living nightmare. And that's what we have going on. So we're going to start tonight by talking about what did God provide for David that kept David up? And there it is in the title. God brings good friends. How would you define friend? How would you define a friend? Anybody? All right, someone who is reliable. Someone in your life and is reliable. I've heard this. It is someone who's coming out or coming in with you when everybody else is leaving. All right, when everybody else is going away, they're the ones that are there with you. They're reliable in times of hardship. Do what? All right, through thick and thin. They are there for you no matter what. That's a true friend. What else? Do what? I'm sorry. Yeah, a oneness. You ever had that kind of friend that you may not talk to him for 3 or 4 years, but one day they call you out of the blue and it's just like you've always been talking to them. You always have that bond that can't be broken. It's a beautiful thing. So that's very good. Thank you. Bond is a good word. Does a friend want the best for the friend? Does that mean sometimes would a true friend let a friend knowingly walk into something that could hurt them physically, emotionally, spiritually? Sometimes friends have to say something that might jolt a little bit, it might even hurt a little bit, but if it's for their own good, that's true friendship, right? A true friend would not want their friend making spiritual mistakes that draw them or pull them further from God. A true friend would want them to be spiritually strong and to have heaven as a reward one day, right? That's what friendship does. That's why when you look at like the 8th grade concept of a friend, oh, they're my best friend. How do you know? Because last night we went out and we did this. We got in all kinds of trouble. Yeah, that's my best friend. Not really. That's not a friend. That's not a friend at all. So in Proverbs 18:24, I have the question right here. Does Proverbs 18:24 even make sense to us? And I'm going to go find the clicker. But Proverbs 18:24 says, I think it's up here, John. Proverbs 18:24 says, let me, hold on. I know the last part. Hold on. Oh, yeah, that's it. All right, so a man who seeks friends must himself be friendly. That's the first part. Last part of it, there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Kay and Faye back there. Faye and Kay back there. We're talking about the bond. There is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. Do you believe those Proverbs to be true? Yeah, I believe them to be true. And do they make sense to you? If you want to have friends, should you treat everyone who tries to befriend you like they're trash and dirt and zeros? Or should you be friendly to them? In friendship, there is a give and take, right? If you want to have friends near you, you do what you can to be as near to them as possible. So a man who wants or seeks friends must himself be friendly. And is there a friend that sticks closer than a brother? All right. God does. Christ does. But have you ever known a friend who was closer to you than sometimes blood can be? Last night, did you notice how we talked about, the first night, all week really, we've talked about how that David had brothers, and no brothers thought David could ever be king, right? All right, and we went back last night talking about Joseph. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers because the majority of them hated him. See that? David, despised by his own family, I use that very loosely, but disliked, not thought of as high by his own family. Notice he had a man that sticks closer than his own brothers would. And that's what we're talking about in tonight. If you want 1 Samuel 18 and 1 Samuel 19, that's what we're doing tonight. Okay? Aha, here we are. All right, so I've got you some slides. I've also handed out a little half-sheet handout there. We've already defined a friend, and we've already asked if that makes sense, and why is that? Why does it make sense, okay? So this is a picture, artist rendition of David and his BFF. Best friend forever. Jonathan. I've got some friends like that. I truly do. I've got friends, you've heard me talk about Otis Duncan before. Otis Duncan is, besides he and Corandall Johnson, they're my two oldest preaching friends. And no matter what time of day it may be, whatever we're going through in life, I can call either of those guys. It's an instantaneous, I'm there for you. And that's the beauty of it. Now, I hope that you want to think about having a blessed life, I hope you can say you have a friend like that. That's what we're dealing with here. Now, we're not going to get into the tangents that the modern day, I'll just say it, LGBTQ movement tries to make out that David and Jonathan were anything but simply best friends. They try to make out that they are more than best friends. When it talks about that David and Jonathan kissed one another, they make that into a lurid, sexual, terrible sort of conclusion because it fits their narrative. That is not the biblical narrative whatsoever. We're dealing with a friendship that can't be destroyed, and certainly was not ungodly. Okay? So we're going to keep that in mind as we go along. Okay? What in the world? Hold on. Uh-oh. You know what? I guess it didn't take. I had this thing to give a kind of a, it's going to pop up often troubles, and then over there we go with that. So let's just go through this really quick, okay? Oftentimes, let me see, all right. So have you ever had a trouble or a problem in your life, a stress and anxiety? Who in here has ever had one? Shoot. Everybody, right? Have you ever had one of those that happened in your life that was not your fault? You did nothing to cause it, but here you are in a terrible situation. That's how it oftentimes is. You know who's dealing with stress and struggle right now? His name is David. Who hates David at this moment? Who? King Saul cannot handle the fact that David has had great success. What is the great success we talked about last night that David had that Saul did not? What was the success? All right, yeah. I mean, who? That's fine. Don't worry about it up there, y'all. Who did David defeat that Saul did not? Big old giant, right? How many times did David see the Goliath giant belittling Israel, belittling Saul, and more than that, belittling God, and nobody stepped in there to do anything about it? And then David, being this young whippersnapper, goes in there and he says, you know what? We're not having that. So this young David didn't do anything to deserve, did he? The problems that Saul brought his way. David has been loving God. God gave him the victory. And yet, unfortunately, he still had to endure the issue of having Saul in his life, okay? And what Saul does right there, thank you much, Saul was not happy with David, but instead wanted to kill him. Can you imagine a friend not being happy for another friend? True friends would be happy for another person. Just a decent person would be happy when another person's being blessed. That's right. That's right. And here Saul is, the paragon, right, of all that Israel should look at, and he can't obey God, he can't lead for God, and he can't even be happy for David in the fact that David did these things that he should have done. Do it? Yeah. And that's right. He's king, and he's jealous of this little young guy. What'd you say? That's right. She said he was not even happy with himself, really. And he wasn't. In fact, when you look at the very last part of the Saul narrative before we get into David, it is in chapter 15, it says that the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul. He didn't have a bright spot in his day from that point on, it doesn't seem like. So we have that going on there, okay? So David didn't cause this, did he? He didn't deserve what Saul was doing to him at all. So what really helps us during hard times? All right, faith's going to help. And another little F word we're talking about tonight. Friends. Friends. Let me tell you what. When you're going through a hard time and you're out there in the world, no faith, no fellowship, without God, who are you having to rely on through those hard times? Me, myself, and I, right? Has your strength ever failed you? Mine does. So where do you turn in times of need? You turn to God, and you turn to fellowship. You turn to your friends. So aren't we blessed in the church to have a relationship where, when we're going through those rough patches, someone is able to lift us up? And that's what we're seeing right here. God gave Jonathan as a strength, as a source of strength and a source of constant encouragement for David. And until they say goodbye, it's one of the closest friendships you'll ever see. So that's what it is we're trying to get to in tonight's lesson. So what we're going to be doing is look at the comments now. We're down on comments of the text from 1 Samuel 18 and then 1 Samuel 19. What I'm going to do is we're going to at least start with this. Let's read verses 1 through 16 out loud. Okay, so we're all on the same page. 1 Samuel 18, verses 1 through 16. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to read here from the NIV slab. This is a KJV NIV parallel. I'm going to read the easier to get out all the words, okay? So if your variation in translation is obvious to you, that's going to be why. If you're not using NIV, this may be a little more of a simplistic rendering, okay? So let's go ahead and look at chapter 18, verses 1 through 16. I'm going to read it through, then we'll talk about it for a little bit, all right? After David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David. Isn't that something? That's already unity, right? That's already what they were talking about in the back there, the bond. And he loved him as himself. Isn't that how we're supposed to love one another anyway? All right? So it's a decent, godly, wholesome friendship. We're not talking about something in the secular sense of carnal, sin. That's not what we're talking about. All right? From that day, Saul kept David with him and did not let him return to his father's house. So he's being sequestered. He's being held right there. And Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. There it is again. Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing and gave it to David. So we go from having a royalty robe, right? Royalty robe, to giving that to the shepherd boy to wear. Now it's interesting. Don't forget, if Saul is king, what's that make Jonathan? He's prince. He's prince. And theoretically, you're going to look at the future. You're going to have succession, right? John Carrico, if you're watching this, I'll call you back later. He just called me from Chattanooga. All right. So bottom line is, if Saul were to pass away, who would inherit the throne? Well, Jonathan would. See that? See that? That's how it would normally work. But not now, because it's been taken away from him. So Jonathan did all that, gave it to David along with his tunic, even his sword, his bow, and his belt. Whatever Saul sent him to do, David did it successfully. So you see, in essence, he is Saul's right-hand man, going out there doing the chores that King Saul wants him to do, and yet we know Saul has this resentment, and it's about to happen here in a little bit, and we'll learn why. So that Saul gave him rank high in the army, and this pleased all the people, so he's growing in popularity, and Saul's officers as well. When the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, so we're going back a little ways in the narrative here, we're looking at what happened before. The women came out from the towns of Israel to meet King Saul with singing and dancing and joyful songs, with tambourines and lutes. You're talking about social joy. Everyone is so happy. And as they danced, they sang these words: Saul has killed his thousands. David has killed his tens of thousands. What is the popular view of the king? He's a warrior. He's doing something. But who's doing more? King David. I'm sorry. David is doing more than the king. So look at verse 8. Saul was so angry. This refrain galled him. They have credited David with tens of thousands. He thought, but me with only thousands? What more can he get except for the kingdom? And so from that moment on, he looked at the popular view, and from that moment on, he, right, kept a jealous eye on David. Like the evil eye, staring him down. The next day, an evil spirit from God came forcefully upon Saul. He was prophesying in his house while David was playing the harp, as he usually did. Saul had a spear in his hand. Here it is, Trish, right here. And he hurled it, saying to himself, I will pin David to the wall. But David eluded him twice. So that's why I say a handful of times. We have a very clear text that he did it here and he did it another time. He may have done it a couple times in succession here. So it could have been three. Or he could just be including the later time in this text. All right. So Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with David but had left Saul. So he sent David away from him and gave him command over 1,000 men. David led the troops in their campaigns, and everything he did, he had great success because the Lord was with him. When Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. But all of Israel and Judah loved David because he led them in their campaigns. All right? Does anybody have anything that just reaches out and grabs you in that passage? He called me again. I got to put my phone up. Anybody, anything grab you there, people? No, I can't get anything to. It's not flipping at all now. Do what? Yeah. 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 Right. 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 Okay. What we are seeing right there is a progress toward a place that God wants it to go. That's the easiest way to say that without really getting into some depth there. All right, there we are. Evil spirit. Right, right. So is Saul making a choice on his own here? Yeah. Seems like he's still making the choice to go after David. Is doing that right or wrong? All right, but God allows him to do that. See that? So that evil spirit, that evil concept, if you look at Saul, you would notice a change in his countenance, and you'd be like, Saul's doing something wrong here. Well, who allows that? God does to give the end result that he's after. What you got, Jimmy? Yeah. Yeah. Harmful spirit. Right. It is definitely playing into the will of God. I'm just trying to keep it simple. It's the same thing as Pharaoh. Remember when the plagues came and he hardened his heart? It's a similar idea there. And we could get caught up in talking about that for 20 minutes, and that's the only problem with the answer. I'm trying to keep it really simple. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's true. It's true. Yeah. Saul was not. Yeah. Absolutely. What could have been, with the right heart and choice. Yep. Agreed. Absolutely. So we talked then about this. Here's what you got. You got Saul ticked off, angry, upset, ready to kill the guy. And then here's little David probably looking for help. He hadn't been home. He can't go back to his family as Saul's keeping him in the palace. And so he needs something. God sends Jonathan his way, who happens to be the son of Saul. So we're just going to go through these really quick. I'm not going to go through everything. What's the big thing that jumps out? So Jonathan and David agree to be mutually supportive. Isn't that something? Now, Jonathan obviously has a position beneath the father who he loves, and David, who he loves, he's caught right there in the middle. In fact, Jonathan is even going to tell his dad on behalf of David, Dad, you got to back up and think about what you're doing here, and please don't act this way. And he does that at least a time or two. So then David and Jonathan exchange these practical gifts. All have some symbolic value to them. Go ahead. I think so. Yes, absolutely. We're going to heir apparent right here. So that's his position. He does have a position of some power and authority as a prince, but he is not the king. What you got, Benny? You have one? Do you have something? Okay, gotcha. So here's David, right? In this passage, he's growing in rank, getting more and more authority, growing in some wisdom as well. His popularity is pretty obvious. And then this public opinion. The public opinion is what clinches Saul. That's what really turns the tide, and that is Saul has killed his thousands, which sounds good. And I'm sure it could be hyperbole, right? How many people had David actually killed up to this point? One. Just one. Yeah, one. It was a giant. So how are the people attributing David's presence in the kingdom. They're attributing him as being better than Saul. Saul, a warrior, may have killed some people before, but David's done more than Saul's done. That's the idea behind the people's public opinion of David. That's right. That's right. That's it. That is it. Yeah, exactly. He is getting bigger and better. Yep. He has accomplished, he's accomplished more in victory than Saul had. That's the idea. So that is what in verses 8 and 9, here he is. They like him better. The only thing left is for David to take the throne. And you're thinking, duh. God already told him that. Samuel already told him that. And we've already seen David is the guy that has the anointment, the anointedness as the next king. So in verses 10 through 16, David's over here playing to a man named Saul, who is enraged. Now, what's David's position on the harp? What's he trying to do? Calm him, soothe the savage beast of Saul. Why is Saul so savage in the first place? It's because of David. See that? So David's out here doing what he's called to do. I'm going to strum the harp and make him feel better. And the only reason Saul feels so bad is because David's the reason. So you have the guy trying to calm him down who's actually the reason for his angst and anger and upset in the very first place. So Saul is so enraged, what's he do? Grabs the spear, right? Throws it, wants to pin David up on the wall, but he misses. Text says misses twice. From that point on, he separates David, kind of gets him out of sight, out of mind, separates David. But a wise young man named David is growing. Like you said, he's growing in the eyes of the people. He is doing more and more now that he has command of the army. Okay? So that's kind of how we set this thing up. Israel really does love David more. So we get to chapter 19 now. There's three pictures of this. I love the Lego. Anybody ever play Legos? Anybody ever do that? Look at that top one there. That's Lego Saul. And I know you probably can't read it, but right there, kill David. That's what Lego Saul is saying. And the second picture is, of course, David and Jonathan. And then the last picture is Saul trying to pin David to the wall. You can see the spear in his arm there. He's fixing to throw it. That's just, again, artistic renditions. But let's go ahead and get into chapter 19 for a minute. And we probably won't read the text because that's going to be another 5 or 6, 7 minutes. But we are going to look through verses 1 through 6. If you care, in chapter 19, you can go ahead and start looking there. This is where Saul does try to kill David. Okay, so be kind of glancing through verses 1 through 6. Just glance, and we're going to talk about him for a minute. Saul to everybody. Saul is on his throne. We are inside the court of the king's palace, the throne room. And Saul says to everybody in there, kill David. That's the Lego thing I pulled up, okay? Kill David. Now, who else is in that group that hears him say, kill David? Jonathan's in there. Jonathan's his best friend. And so Jonathan has to go up and warn David, you know what? You need to watch out for my dad. I think he really does want to kill you. And you're going, ding, ding, ding. That's exactly what's trying to happen right here. So Jonathan then begs, goes up to his dad and said, Dad, I'm begging of you, please don't do this. David is not the one you think he is. He's not doing this to try and take you out of the way. He is helping you. He's always been your ally. That's what Jonathan is saying. And so Saul finally agrees. And he relents. He says, okay, that evil spirit that he had, boom, he's appeased. He says this, essentially, we at least hope this won't happen again, right? So then you look at verses 7 and 8. Everything is back to normal. Everything is okay. And I'll tell you what, we'll go and read 7 and 8 right quick. So Jonathan called David, said, come on back, told him the whole conversation. He brought him into Saul, and David was with Saul just like before. But then, once more, war broke out, and David went out there and he fought the Philistines. He struck them with such force that they fled before him. Oh no, another victory for David? What's that going to do for Saul and David's relationship, right? You just started it right over again to the very same cycle that we've already been seeing over and over. So David is a hero again, and all the people know it. So we look at verses 9 through 12. Guess what happens? Good old Saul gets jealous one more time, and guess what he picks up? Good old spear, throws a spear at David, and he wants to kill David. He wants to kill him again. This time, not Jonathan, but Michal. Michal, feminine, Michal, the daughter of Saul, which was given to David as wife. She has to say, you got to go. Can't come back. He wants you dead. So now we have both children of Saul taking up with David in the sense that they know their father has this vendetta, and he's not going to rest until David is dead. Comments or questions? Yes, Benny? Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay, right. Okay, yeah. Get them out of there. Yeah. Right, right. Yeah. That's it. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Patrick? Okay. Wow. Yep. Very good. Very good. And if unchecked, can jealousy lead to very bad places? If unchecked. Now, are any of us beyond jealousy in our own lives sometimes? You may say, well, I've grown beyond that, and that's great, and I hope we have. But I'm saying when you allow that monster to come in, if you allow that evil spirit to come in, it can lead you to bad places, down bad paths. And bad things can happen, and you're sitting there going, I never should have let that get me in the first place. Look where I am now. So that's why we're aware of, and we try to wisely look at what our actions now may become or create into our future, all right? So really quick, we're looking at 4 things that David and Jonathan teaches us about friendship, all right? And to do that, I want you to turn really fast to Ecclesiastes chapter 4. I really believe, and we talk about Ecclesiastes having been written by Solomon, okay? Solomon was the son of David. So I think, when you look at this, you're thinking, okay, dear old dad imparted some wisdom to Solomon that he could see and maybe even apply to when his dad was running for his life, but had a very best friend. When you look over at Ecclesiastes chapter 4, 9 through 12, Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. Listen to this. 2 are better than 1, right? If you have the right one to make 2, it's better than 1. Because they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, hey, his friend can pick him up. But pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. All right? So this is a passage written for people who are trying to make it in a cold, harsh world, right? And one of the best things you can do to make it through this life is to have companionship that equally cares for your good the way you care for your own good. And when you equally care for their good as they care for yours, you got a partnership through friend to friend, best friend to best friend, husband to wife, whatever we're talking about. This is what we're trying to get down to. And by the way, friendship is and gives you a better return than just investing your life into stuff and money, and riches. All right, you need a friend, and that's priceless. You can't put a price tag on a good friend. So, what do real friends do? What did Jonathan and Michal do for David? And what we're going to do by looking at Ecclesiastes 4 is just take 4 things very quickly that we could see in those texts. Now, we have obviously not been able to read every word of every instance where Jonathan, and David, and Michal came together, okay? But these are ideas that we do get in the text. Number one, friend helps you when you're down, right? Friend's going to pick you up when you fall. You fall into a proverbial spiritual pit somewhere and you can't get yourself up, best friend's going to pull you up because they love you. That's chapter 4, verse number 10. Friends stick around when nobody else is there. That's what makes them a friend. Number 2. Actually, anybody got anything on that? These are so simple, it's almost not even funny. They're all right from the text. Gives warmth when you're in the cold, right? That's the idea. Now, if we look at this as spiritual warmth in a world that's spiritually cold, that probably makes more sense to us than just the idea of a conventional cold night when you don't have a car to get in, you don't have a room to run to, and you have to huddle together in a cold evening in the woods just to survive. All right? If we're looking at this metaphorically speaking, like a cold spiritual world that we're all facing, I want my friend to give me some warmth and provide help when I am hurting. And there are 2 kinds of people in the world. Encouragers that are going to lift you up, or people that are not good for you spiritually, who pull you down and discourage you. That's just the way it is. Number 3, they will fight to protect you. I think this is probably one of the best ones in there because you almost get the sense that you're on a field of battle. And in ancient battle, when it came down to it, if you had your front flank and you had them going, and they would take turns, right, rotational turns. The first 12 guys on the front row would fight as long as they could. The guys behind them would be stabbing, whoever's coming their way. But once these first guys get tired, what do? They do this. They pull back to the very end. They rest up until their cycle comes back around. But then when you break that, when things get bad and that's broken, what happens is you have your friend, your partner, who's on your back. And you're doing this together, taking a 360, and you got his back. He's got yours. That's the idea. Trust in your fellow soldier on the field of battle. When somebody talks about you, your friend doesn't join in with that. Your friend sticks up for you when everybody else is gossiping and being petty and being silly and being mean-spirited. All right? Do what? That's right. That's right, too. Everybody else is gone. One friend sticks it by you. And also, here it is. I started with this one earlier. Wants to get you to heaven. We all want each other together forever in a very beautiful, eternal life. And we also want to make sure while we are having that in mind, along the way we're growing spiritually. We're being corrected in love. We're being blessed by pulling each other up to a different and new level. So that ends us with that Proverbs 18:24 again. If you're going to be friendly, if you want friends, you got to be friendly. And there is going to be a friend that sticks closer than a brother, and I hope that you have one of those today. David fell on his face and bowed 3 times, and they kissed each other and wept together. Although David wept more, the text says in 1 Samuel chapter 18. David wept more because David is about to have to give up on ever seeing Jonathan, because that's just how bad it's gotten. David has to run for his life, and I don't know why that didn't come up. All right, so where Jonathan and Michal provided for those things for David, Jesus can be your best friend of all. Don't you agree? He's your best friend. Now, we want to emulate Christ all the time, and we want to be good friends to each other. All right, we want to be that. I want to be a stand-in a sense, for Jesus himself. Greater love has no man than this, to lay down his life for his friends. He says, I am your friend if you do whatsoever I command you. So we have that relationship with him. That's a beautiful thing to say, Christ is my best friend in the world, and I have a church family that will treat me the very same way he himself treats me each day. So tomorrow night, we will end our lessons with David sparing the life of Saul. This guy's made my life a living nightmare for the last several years. I could kill him right now, but he doesn't. Wow, right? Wow. You might even say David would be justified, but David didn't think so. All right? So be sure to read ahead for tomorrow night, and we'll be in good shape. 1 Samuel 23 and 24 for tomorrow night. Does anybody have anything you want to say right quick? Anybody? All right. Do we have an activity tonight? Yay, activity. All right. Y'all march